Oh, okay.
There we go.
Springtime.
That's a pretty Redmill fish.
Redmill fish. Look at us.
Loaded with eggs.
Hey, I'm Bob Murray. I'm here with Kirk, Delaware Valley Outdoors. Stay tuned. I think it's going to be a big one. Woo! Son, that's a nice one.
Yes, it is. On the spinnerbait.
Delaware Valley Outdoors, your best source for fishing information on TV, radio, and the internet.
Hey, I'm Bob Murray with Delaware Valley Outdoors. I'm down here with my good friend Kirk Van Brandt from S&K Guide Service. Kirk invited me down. Said, Bobby, come on down to Delaware. Got some good springtime, well actually good all year round fishing, but springtime fishing. And we come down, the weather's not been too kind to us, but then again,
When is it, right?
when is it on our show? Kirk, tell us a little bit about the springtime fishing you have here in Delaware and what we're doing today.
Well, if we're fishing in Delaware, most of our places we're going to take you are smaller lakes or ponds. So, biggest one, like the one we're fishing today here at Red Mill, it's only 200 acres. So, it's not like you're on a massive body of water. We're not fishing some huge lake or reservoir. Spinner baits, rattle traps, your basic springtime lures. You're working them in lily pads that are just starting to come above the surface. We're working some wood on some drop-offs. Biggest thing, we're dealing with water that's 50 degrees, so sometimes it can take a little longer to catch the fish, but if you're patient and you stay in the right areas, you can manage to come up with some decent fish.
Yeah, most of the fish now, I mean, we're hoping to find 50-degree water today. It's got, of course, we had all the cold fronts and everything else come through.
That really slowed it down.
Typical springtime stuff. But generally speaking, you get into the 50s degree water, and then you start throwing the spinner baits and the
your
rattle
traps and your crankbaits. 50-degree water generally is known traditionally. That's when your bigger fish will start to hit. It's first time, most of the time, first time of the year guys get out. Don't always expect to have some of those days that you might have in the summer where you catch 20 or 30 fish, at least not at first. But this is the time of year for big fish. If I had to tell people to go out one time of the year to try to catch the biggest bass of their life, it would be early springtime. So.
Right, and we're going to be finding the fish in what, a pre-spawn?
A pre-spawn mode. These fish actually really want to get going here. They'd like to spawn here in another couple weeks, and every time they start to get really aggressive, we seem to get 4 or 5 days of some cold weather, you know?
Rain.
Rain, wind. The wind is a must. All month, you haven't been fishing where the wind wasn't at least 10 or 15 miles an hour, but if you know the right places to go and you're patient, you can still catch fish despite all that.
And I think one of the things you had mentioned, and I understand it, but for our viewers, is that patience in this time of the year. You're going to get 6 bites, and that's it.
Something people need to think about, when the water temperatures, like right now we're dealing with about 47 or 48 degree water, those fish don't have to eat as much as they do when you go out and it's 75 or 80 degrees. They might only have to eat 3 times a day, so if your lure's not in the exact spot at the exact right time, you might not get hit. So what you need to do is cover a lot of water until eventually odds work in your favor where your bait comes in front of that fish that's deciding to eat.
And now sometimes we get a little bit of sun here, the water will warm up.
Well, sometimes this time of year when the water's cold, a lot of guys, some people may think it's a better day to spend cutting your lawn rather than fishing, but like I said, with some patience, you can manage some fish. Okay, one of the patterns we're going to be working here today, this lake doesn't have a lot of natural cover, so what's happened, the homeowners here, they've placed a lot of brush piles off the end of their docks. Some of them are pretty big, but most of them are real small, subtle brush piles, a couple limbs at a time. If you're not feeling the brush with your worm, you want to slow down.
So they're just,
the key.
the homeowners throw them out here for basically a crop?
Sometimes they'll throw their Christmas trees after Christmas, and then some guys are actually bass fishermen, and they want to catch fish off the dock. I'd say probably out of 4 docks on this lake, one out of every 4 has a brush pile on it.
What brush pile?
But they're not, they're not huge. You just want to keep that worm right down there at the bottom. Sometimes you actually have to hit the brush with the worm, and then that's when the strike will come.
I know we're feeling it, but it's a real subtle thing. You don't know, like you said, you don't know if you have a stick.
Yeah, it's not like you're fishing huge, standing timber.
Yeah.
They're just small limbs. They've, over the years, they've fallen all apart, but the fish love them. Like I said, if you look at the lake, there's not a ton of laydowns because all the houses on it. So this is pretty much the wood that these fish have. If they want to go to wood, especially in a situation, where the water's a little colder, they want to get tight into that cover. So. And it's the right depth too. If you look at the fish finder about now, it's about 4 feet, 5 feet.
And then it comes out and it drops off.
And then it's shallow in there. So they could actually be using some of these spots as a staging area because you got sand banking at the shore, and they're holding that deeper water until the water temperature gets just right, and then.
Well, will they use these to spawn into, or you just said like the coves?
Well, the major spawning area is in the cove across from us. It's a little creek arm, but some fish will, 2 or 3 fish here and there, they'll spawn pretty much all over the lake wherever there's a sandy bottom. How many times have you walked out on a lake on a dock and there's a bass right under the dock when you get there?
This is the hand that sows the seed, that grows the forest, that drinks from the stream, that hugs the mountain, that gives shape to the wind, that carries the kite, that is flown by the child, that is loved by the woman, that toils at the job, that gives to EarthShare, that supports the hand, that sows the seed.
All life is woven together. How can we choose which environmental cause to support? EarthShare, the workplace giving program, makes it simple by bringing the leading environmental groups together under one umbrella. Support EarthShare, and you support them all, including the hands that sow the seeds and protect the forests and the streams and the children. To learn more, please visit our website.
Refuse to be a victim, and we can help. Call now about the I Refuse to Be a Victim safety course from the women of the NRA. It's not about guns or joining the NRA. It's about planning your own personal safety strategy. Call now.
I'm throwing my Durstein red spinnerbait for this time of year. Pepper, you were talking about, you like that Terminator bait?
Yeah, Terminators are titanium. The main reason I prefer the Terminator over other baits is just because of the titanium. Your old standard spinner baits now, every time you catch a fish, the wire would be bent, bait start to roll. You don't have to tune these baits. They stay exactly the same. You can catch 100 fish on them and they run the same way as they did when you took them out of the package. That's just my personal preference. I like the titanium, but spinner baits, all different types catch fish. I think one of the things people miss out on, the biggest question I get when I'm talking to somebody about spinner baits is, I threw my spinner bait all day and couldn't catch any. What color do you throw? Colors can be important, but most of the time people spend way too much time worrying about the color when the blades, the hardware on the bait itself is actually more important than any color you're going to throw. You always want to match your blade to the time of year, the water temperature, especially the water color. Like time of year we're fishing right now, the water's pretty cold, hasn't really warmed up. We're still waiting for those warm days in early spring, and that's when you really want to use round blades. Colorado, blade that's going to have your most vibration. I'm using an Oklahoma, which it's round, but it has a little bit more flash than your rounder, but it still gives you the vibration of the Colorado. And then summertime, that's when you want to move more to your willow leaf blades. They have a lot more flash, but not as much vibration.
And you like that gold color?
Gold or silver. I mean, around here in the lakes and rivers in Delaware, golden shiners, or some people call them millroach. That's the main forage, so they're all gold. But if I'm fishing a lake out in the Midwest or sometimes down south where shad is really what the bass are eating, I'll go with the silver. But your colors, you can basically stick with the same basic colors. 90% of the time, a bass that's over 12 inches is eating a fish. So you just want to look at the fish that are in your lake. Whites, sometimes the chartreuse and white chartreuse kind of looks white to them under the water. If the water's really muddy, you'll go with a black. Not because really any of the fish they're eating are black, it's just it holds its identity real well in the muddy water. I mean, there's about, same thing with worms really, there's about 4 or 5 basic colors, and except under some strange circumstance on some lake where that's the only color they'll hit, most of the time that's all you use. Shad, bluegills. Sometimes in the spring, like the bait you're throwing, the red. They like that can resemble.
I think like this bait is just my springtime bait.
Red is a great color. I mean, you'll see later today, hopefully we'll catch some fish on a red rattle trap. That's one of your best colors that you can throw. Sometimes I think they believe it's crayfish, and other times I think the red may just look like a sunfish or a perch. You know?
Yeah,
Like I said, color to me is more of a confidence issue. You know what I mean? Like you just said, red is my springtime bait.
Yeah.
So for you, when you're throwing that red bait, you know you're going to catch fish. And for me, it might be a chartreuse bait. So color, while it does matter, I think you really, for the average angler, they really want to spend a lot more time working on their blades.
And
even weights,
too.
Correct, casting, and weights as well. A lot of people don't realize how important the weight of the spinnerbait is. I mean, if you're fishing deeper water and you're throwing a 1/4 ounce spinnerbait, and the fish are 4 or 5 feet down, you're just casting for fun at that point. Yeah. All right, what we're fishing here, this is a classic springtime spot. You can find something like this pretty much on any lake you're going to fish anywhere. What we have here is this is one of our major spawning creeks. Hard sand bottom, shallow water in the back of this creek. What we're doing is we come to the mouth of the creek and you want to fish, there's a ditch, or what you would call the main creek channel, and it slowly winds its way back through here. And the fish pretty much use it it's almost like a highway for them. They follow this ditch, they come out of the main lake up this creek channel and they'll follow it all the way back to their spawning grounds. So what we're doing here, basically, we're basically trying to intercept fish that are traveling here. These are fish that are staging, getting ready to spawn, and we're just throwing these rattle traps over the creek channel. And
so they'll be just sitting out here waiting for the water temperature to come up.
Pretty much eating something that comes right in front of them. You know, there's some bait fish in here that are also probably getting ready to spawn, the crappies, bluegills. And on both sides there's emerging lily pads that are just below the surface, and sand, so they're going to go in anywhere along this bank and all the way back into it. So like I said, it's the best way to describe it, it's just like a highway. They use this ditch to work their way back to where they're trying to get to spawn, and you're just trying to pick them off. Yeah, see, and there's grass.
Little grass.
Yep, and they're just laying right down in it. It's not real deep. So basically you're just trying to get a reaction strike by ripping this bait right in front of their face. Okay, Bob, let's go in here and maybe we can get something out of these lily pads. What we're going to be doing here, it's a major lily pad field. Where the water's shallow, that's where the lily pads are poking up above the water. Where it looks like open water, that's where it's a little deeper, and the pads are probably, I'd say, about 6 inches below the surface.
Ooh, go ahead.
And just going to throw this spinnerbait through here, work it kind of erratic, and hopefully we'll land a fish.
That felt good.
See? I'm just going to let the wind drift us down and see what happens. There you go. Got one.
All right. Let's get you out of the way here.
Not too bad.
Good one. All right. There we go. Right through the pads.
Smack that Terminator spinnerbait here in the pads.
Yeah.
Just like earlier, get that Terminator right into those lily pads and...
There you go.
Not huge, but healthy fish. Take him in a tournament.
You
anytime.
betcha. I would take them in a tournament any day, my friend.
Not bad. Let that one go.
I'd like to have him as a call, but
Yeah. Let's head on back further into these lily pads. Maybe these fish are going to start hitting in there on the spinnerbait. The best lures you can use when there's a heavy wind like this is a spinnerbait. You just throw it out, start cranking, cover as much water as you can. If you're trying to fish a worm or a jig right now, trying to hold your boat in steady position off the tree or a dock, that can be pretty tough.
Yeah, and the other thing with that is that these spinnerbaits are just, weedless in a sense. You can rip them through the pads.
Yeah, if they do end up getting some grass on them, just jerk your rod, and most of the time it comes through.
Hit you in the back.
Either side, be pretty much on any side here. Just working a giant lily pad field, and fish could be behind you, front of you, side of you.
That's true with the lily pad thing. You just got to keep moving around it, or over top of it, sideways.
Different angles can be. And a lot of times what it is when the fish hits, you just don't really realize it because you can't tell. It's a little channel where it's a little bit deeper, and that's how they make their way through these lily pad fields. Bass in general, any type of cover they're in, they always want to root. They don't, they generally don't like to just go any direction, swimming, haphazardly through something. They have a little channel where it's a little deeper, and that helps them get where they need to get.
Yeah, this is like an oasis for them in these pad fields because they don't like to be out in that open stuff.
Well, it gives them cover, gives them shade at the right time when that's what they want. Most importantly, it draws the bait fish, draws all the bugs, which draw the bait fish, and then the bass come looking for the bait fish. And it's a great ambush spot. I mean, they can just back themselves under one of these pads and sit and wait, and hopefully they're waiting for our spinnerbait to come burning by, and they jump out and pounce on it.
Get them.
That fish was fighting hard. It's one thing about these fish. It's like, no matter how big they are, they fight like they're huge. Oh my God.
Yeah, that fish took you around the boat.
Yep, I told you they fight hard here. Another spinnerbait, working lily pads. And not a huge fish, but
There we go.
there you go, there's another one.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get a double up here. All right.
They do fight hard.
I told you. Oh, mine's way bigger than yours.
Look, let me see.
Two trophies.
Hey, spinnerbait in the pads. You called it.
That's
Good.
right.
All right, let's go catch some
We've been
more.
battling some tough conditions, but
We catch some
at
more.
least any fish is better than no fish.
Yeah.
So let them go here.
Yeah. Look at that. Goodbye, sweetheart. S&K Guide Service. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, the S stands for Steve and K stands for Kirk. That's my brother and I's name. That's basically how the name came about. We're located in Delaware. Most of the places we specialize in fishing are the Upper Chesapeake Bay, the Potomac River down in Washington, D.C., and we have quite a number of smaller lakes in Delaware. Some are private, some are public, where we guide. We deal with anybody from the beginner with a family, maybe they want to take their kids out, all the way up to, we have a lot of guys that call us a couple weeks before their tournament. They can't get out as much as they'd like, and they'll come down, we'll show them the hotter spots. We help them pre-fish, so just depends on what you want to do. We have something for everybody. We have a lot of videotapes as well, where we do instructional tapes, where you can buy those as well if you don't really actually want to go out with us. But like I said, pretty much all you need to do is bring yourself. We have state-of-the-art equipment. We got a boat, nice nitro bass boat. So.
And well, you're linked to our website.
Correct.
You have your website, right?
Yes, we do.
Anybody wants information, they could go to
Delaware Valley Outdoors, or basically nowadays you can just go on AOL and search under bass fishing or bass guides, and you should see S&K Guide Service pop up. But if you really want to get the actual website, just go ahead and go on the Delaware Valley Outdoors site and you can get a hold of us. Our best times are generally the spring if you're after trophy fish, but we'll go all the way through the summer and into the fall again, and we even do some night fishing trips. So basically we'll work with you. You just tell us at what skill level you're at. Do you want numbers of fish versus big fish, or some guys we just take them out and it's more of an instructional thing. They know where to go to catch fish, it's just they want you to teach them a few techniques. So really just drop us a line and we can work with you. All right, Bob, now that that lily pad pattern slowed down a little bit, let's try moving into this shallow bank. Maybe we can hit some wood, pop off another fish here. All right, there he is.
All right. Keep going, keep going. All right, ooh, that's a little
that.
better fish.
Like I said, if you were to break one of these fish off, you'd swear you lost a monster.
You'd swear, yeah.
Ah, look at that. Not a bad one. That's a little
Right
better.
off the edge of the pads again.
Again, spinnerbait in the pads.
That is better fish, yeah.
Working the wind. Just drift in the wind and just use the electric motor just to hold you in position and slow you down a little bit. Decent fish. That's a male, no eggs in there. All right, let's see if we can get some more in here on the spinnerbait, Bob.
Yeah.
And we can double up again.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't get to double up this time. Well, Kurt, we're here at the tackle box section of the show, and you put out a selection of springtime baits that you would suggest for the water temperature and what we were having.
Definitely.
Okay, first thing, this is a new bait that you've talked a lot about today. What is it?
Correct. It's a Berkeley gulp, and Berkeley gulp actually makes a couple different varieties of soft plastic baits. This is actually the sinking minnow. It's similar to your Senko type lures. They're 100% biodegradable. They're not actually made of plastic, so that's kind of a cool thing. They won't stay around the bottom of the lake forever like regular plastic. But the most important thing, they release 400% more times of a scent field than regular traditional plastic. So fish can smell them better, taste them better.
And
hopefully that leads to more fish.
And they're
that you're gonna catch.
biodegradable too.
Biodegradable, so they're safe for the lake, so your grandkids won't be finding your plastic worms on the bottom of the lake.
Okay, the
Now the Senko.
Senkos, what colors do we have here?
June bug, and we've got a chartreuse color, which is really good if you're in some muddy water springtime, especially wacky rigged or jersey rigged, like you guys like to call it. Which then we have more of a black with a gold glitter to it. Senko is the bait that the gulp is made to imitate. That started the whole soft stick bait craze.
And you could fish them Texas rig or
Correct.
the
or wacky rig. It's great for when those fish, you go there expecting to catch them on your spinnerbait, but they're a little turned off after the cold front. It's a killer cold front lure.
Okay, and you have some weights here?
Correct. Sometimes you want to fish those baits weightless, but like today when this wind came up, that was pretty much impossible. These are tungsten weights, which also is what everybody's trying to get into, get away from the lead. They're smaller, so you know, lead weight that same size, it'd be huge. So they're smaller, more compact, and they actually say they transfer feel up through your line a little bit better.
And sizes?
Anywhere from an 1/8 ounce, and if you're in some heavy wind or if you're in deeper water, 1/2 ounce. So you want to have a lot of different sizes.
Now here's something that's going on today. We have two hooks here. Tell me about those two hooks.
Well, they're both the same size. They're both a 3/0 hook, extra wide gap hook. One is your traditional black, and then the one that's red, obviously, that's called a bleeding bait hook. It's been a craze. It works, it definitely works. I think they're getting into it with a lot of things. It's blood, shad, fish eat shad. They think that they key on the red color. Definitely can't hurt, that's for sure.
And what size hooks do you got? These are what, 3/0s?
3/0. If you go down to the 4-inch worm or a smaller worm, you can go down to the 2/0, and bigger if you're using a bigger bait.
Okay, and then just the traditional
Jig. Instead of pig, we're using plastic. Black and blue. No matter where you fish in the country, black and blue is, especially in the spring, is probably your best color.
flipping it up under dogs.
Flipping it,
Wood.
and this is a Terminator jig, and it actually has a recessed eye on it, which you won't get snagged up half the time as you will with a regular jig. If you look at your jigs, when you're jig fishing, the eye where you tie on, 90% of the time it gets wedged on a stick, and so you don't get hung up as much.
Okay, spinnerbaits.
Spinnerbaits, Terminator. Talked a little bit about this earlier while we were out there. The titanium has a good vibration, but the best thing about it is you don't have to tune it. It runs true every time. If you catch a big fish, you don't have to bend it back in shape. You can just wing it back out there and get another one.
Okay, and colors?
Colors, like we talked about also earlier, you know, there's basic colors. Your chartreuse, your white, and then you want to go with some darker colors at different times depending on the water clarity. But the blade, those are Oklahoma blades. They're a rounder blade. Give off a moderate amount of flash, but they really are good with the vibration. Then you have your willow, which gives off some vibration, but it's more based for your flash. Gives off a tremendous amount of flash.
Like these games give a lot more vibration.
Yes, that's why today in the cold water, when that water's around 50 to 55, you're better off going with the rounder blade. And then later in the year, that willow works a lot better.
All right, crankbaits. You have...
We've got some rattle traps. That's a Rapala rattling rap. Then you have 3 different sizes. That's something you want to experiment with, especially in these lakes in Delaware. Sometimes the fish are eating really big fish, but then you go into other small ponds and they're eating little tiny bluegills. So you want 3 different sizes, and then spring red. Red is a killer color in red. You know that. You throw your red spinnerbait all the time.
Right.
They think it's a crayfish.
And then this, again, the color here is just
That's a shad imitator. That's what you would throw if you're fishing a lake, maybe a little clearer, and it's predominant. Shad is the predominant forage. That's what you want.
And the last 2 baits?
Shallow crankbaits.
Okay, and what do we have here? This one is a...
That's a Spro bait. That runs about 4 feet deep, square bill, so they bang off all the wood and the rocks. And then we have our Man's 1-.
Well, they really came out with a bait when they made this one, didn't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's perfect. You want to throw that in the same spots, as long as you can get away with it as far as cover, that you would throw your spinnerbait. Up shallow in the edges of the pads, around wood. Just gives them something a little different.
Well, Kurt, I want to thank you. And we caught some fish. We're going to catch some more, I know that.
Yes,
so,
we are.
But there's your bait. This is a tackle box. Okay, come here. All right, come on.
Nice fish,
All
buddy.
right, all righty. Okay, come here. Oh, all right.
Good
Kirk,
fish. Look at the eggs on that one.
look at that fish. Hey, I'm Bob Murray, Delaware Valley Outdoors.
Kurt Von Brandt, S&K Guide Service.
Down here in Delaware. Don't forget to give us an email. Contact us. You can get the guys from the website, their website, our site.
S&K Guide Service.
I'm Bob Murray. See you on the water. All right, good job, my friend. Thank you very much.
Had a great time, Bob.
Excellent. Good.